Are you thinking about getting into PC gaming? Because if you are in the right place, as there's a lot of stuff to know, and throughout this video, we're going to go through absolutely everything that it is that you need to know. All of the pros, all of the cons, and we're going to help you to make an informed buying decision as to whether this platform is right for you. I mean, there certainly is a lot to brush up on, whether that's the cost of hardware, ease of setting everything up, and of course just getting the highest frame rates possible in games. But in this video, we are going to make everything super easy for you to understand, because let's face it, anyone can become a PC gamer, especially you, the person watching this. I'd argue actually that most of us that are in the PC gaming ecosystem all started from the exact same space, which is playing on consoles, not really sure what the platform was all about, why everyone's raging about it, and ultimately what differences and what advantages can be had from the platform. It's a lot easier to stick with consoles, but ultimately if you want something more, you want something more flexible, or you're just after something different, then PC gaming definitely can give you all of those things. So let's walk you through absolutely everything that it is that you need to know right after a short word from this video's sponsor.
It's time to go big with Corsair's mighty new enclosure, the Frame 5000D. This awesome case can fit just about anything, with support for up to a whopping 420mm radiator, 10 140mm fans, or multiple 360mm coolers. The new front panel features a 3D mesh for up to 12% better airflow than the previous version. You get 5 USB ports on the front, and it is massively modular, letting you upgrade, swap, and mod all to your heart's content. Learn more about this incredible case today with the link down below.
Let us start then with almost certainly the biggest question of all, which is what is the difference between a gaming PC and a console? Well, obviously, this is quite literally a PC-centric channel, so consoles are rubbish, right? PC is the best, case closed. Except, no, actually. In my opinion, consoles are the best that they've ever been, with great hardware, awesome flexibilities, and despite recent price increases, really, really good value. And it's kind of funny, really, because arguably the reason for this is that they've become more PC-like. Better backwards compatibility, lots of titles having performance settings for 30, 60, and even 120 FPS gaming, and frequent game sales on digital stores, doing away with physical discs. But having said this, there are still big holes in console's thick hide, especially in 2025 and beyond, because you see, nothing lasts forever. These consoles are starting to age, and as we see generation after generation, we're now starting to get to the point where new releases are going to be 30 FPS only, as the developers want them to look as good as possible, make fancy trailers. But for someone like myself that really wants a game to feel great, I'm just not happy with 30 frames a second. And arguably the primary reason for this actually comes down to a limited CPU, or processor capabilities, of the consoles. Because you see, as game engines get more and more advanced, their overheads become greater, and more power is needed to increase the FPS, or frames per second. GTA 6, for example, is likely to run at a fixed 30 FPS, even on PS5 Pro, for this exact reason. Oh, PC-centric, I think you find that actually you can't play GTA 6 on PC, so the amount of FPS you're going to get is 0. I mean, you've got a fair point. Jokes aside though, this is in no way going to be exclusive to GTA 6. This is a problem you're going to see across the board the closer and closer you get to the end of life of these consoles. Whereas on PC, you're just not tied to these limits, and your machine can whack out as many frames as it can, and if you're having an issue, you can upgrade a single component rather than getting a whole new machine or whole new console. Still not convinced? Well, there's a huge selection of games to think about too. Even if you do have to wait a year or so for some exclusives to end, PC is the only platform where you pretty much get everything. Whether that's huge MMOs like Dune Awakening, esports like Counter-Strike, strategy like Total War, on top of all the usual multi-platform games, and now gently belayed PlayStation Time exclusives. Oh, and basically every PC game ever released, though they will need emulation if they're old but gold. But interestingly as well, whilst we're on the topic of the games themselves, it's also worth bearing in mind that the price of PC games is usually far lower than the console counterparts. Some of this comes down to licensing fees. It obviously isn't going to apply to every single title or every single point, but generally speaking, have a look at the prices day one on PC versus console, and it's a great way to save yourself a little bit of money. There is no doubt though that for many, the biggest strength of PC gaming is also one of its biggest weaknesses. Lots of player choice, unfortunately, also means lots of settings, setup, and overheads. Windows 11 Ryzen is a great OS. It can run lots of things, it's incredibly useful, but running games on PC does mean that titles aren't always as optimized as they are on consoles, and the sheer nature of booting a PC, opening one of many game launchers, which then opens another launcher into a settings configurator, it is not ideal for the living room. But having said that though, a lot of the PC gaming that I personally do is in the living room, and all you need is like one of those keyboards that costs like 15-20 quid, it's got a trackpad on it, and you can use this just to log in, navigate the menus, double click on your game, and then you're pretty much set with a gamepad. So it's absolutely doable, but there is no doubt and no denying that obviously playing on a console, sleeping a game, pressing the button on your controller, waking up and resuming is obviously far, far easier. And hopefully one day PC will have a similar feature, but for now, it's slightly more involved. So yeah, an easy win for the consoles when it comes to ease of use, but that complexity opens up the biggest win for the PC, which is the choice to have whatever frame rate and whatever graphics settings you want. 30 FPS for the cinematics, or 500 FPS for the most fluid gaming experience possible today, though of course you will need the PC and the display hardware necessary to achieve such a high FPS. For most of us, we pretty much just want 60 FPS in single player games and over 100 FPS in multiplayer, but this is the point. It's entirely down to us. We can pick what we want. We don't have to rely on the developers accommodating us with 60 or 120 FPS choices. It's down to us, and it's very, very freeing. And again, it's not just all about chasing sky-high FPS to the moon and back. You can also enable even higher quality settings in the games. You can use ultra-wide monitors for better immersion, and of course you have the ability to create or download your own mods into the games for style, or frankly just general silliness. Now whilst consoles definitely have gotten way better in regards to mouse and keyboard support, there's also still no argument that almost every single PC game ever made has been built for mouse and keyboard support from day one. Though of course plugging in a gamepad, flight stick or steering wheel is seamless, and there are lots of third-party applications if it isn't. And then of course finally there's also the choice of the way your PC looks. Consoles admittedly are a little bit boring, sometimes you can buy a black or a white version if you're lucky, whereas with PC the world's your oyster. You can have it small, you can have it big, you can have it bright, you can have it bold, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. I'd wager that over the years we've probably built about 250 different PCs, including tiny, medium and absolute units, all with varying styles, performance levels and footprints. Honestly, you can just let your creativity run wild and get the perfect rig for your room and of course your personal taste. So in a nutshell then, those are the main differences between a console and a PC. PC is technically better, but consoles are just easier to pick up and play. But there's probably a big hurdle that's stopping you from jumping into PC gaming. You've probably heard that they are incredibly expensive, right? Well, yes and no. PC gaming can actually work out cheaper than console gaming, but let's not pretend that a mid-range graphics card doesn't cost around about £400 to $500 at the moment, shall we? The truth is that PC gaming can be whatever you want it to be, but if you do want a better than console level experience, then it is going to cost you more. At first. Assuming you're buying new, the cheapest decent combination of just a CPU and a motherboard will set you back around about 200 quid. So if you spend another 200 on an Intel Arc B570, which is probably the best cheap GPU out there, you're essentially already at Xbox Series X money, and I'd wager that you're going to get a better 4K gaming experience on the Xbox than the PC. However, if you are to spend a little bit more, and you get an Intel Arc B580, or an RTX 5060 Ti 16GB, and then you pair that with a decent B580 motherboard and a Ryzen 7600 processor, suddenly you've got a much more powerful machine, and it'll be much easier to upgrade in a few years' time, rather than something like a PS5 Pro with its aging CPU. Not to mention that your PC is also a PC. You're going to use it for way more than just gaming, so if you are going to buy a laptop or a Mac anyway, then you can take that off the actual cost that you've got to pay. Plus, as we discussed earlier, every game that you buy is probably going to be a saving versus what it would have been if it was on a console, and obviously because you're on PC, you don't have to pay those subscription fees to Xbox for Live or PlayStation for PS Plus. You can just play your multiplayer game, enjoy it, and make the savings. To be fair though, PC gaming does have a rather nasty habit of annoying your wallet with more and more tempting upgrades. You never set out to buy a $2,500 gaming PC, you just wanted to add another fan, then a flashy cooler with a screen on it, then an RTX 5070 Ti just happened to land in your shopping basket and appear in your gaming PC. I think it's fair to say that PC gaming definitely becomes a hobby, and after all, we just want to make our rigs better as they are an expression of ourselves. I'm also going to add though that this would be a little bit of a weird video to make without acknowledging the fact that in the United States it's still a little bit odd around pricing for PC components. Some of it's fine, but especially when it comes to graphics cards, everything still, months later, seems to be very overinflated. I would love to stand here and obviously say that this is going to end very soon, don't worry, it will be fine. But the honest truth is we don't really know what the situation is going to be. So if you're looking at building like a mid to upper range gaming PC, you can absorb, it's annoying, but you can absorb the cost to some extent. But I think it's fair to acknowledge that if you're looking to build a real like budget-friendly gaming PC in the States, it is a little bit harder now than it was, but hopefully this will improve over time. The best way to, I guess, deal with it is just to kind of sign up for product alerts, make sure you're buying stuff as close to the RRP as possible, and not just buying something because you want it now, unless you specifically need it now. Hopefully this video will age like a fine wine rather than spoiled milk, but only time will tell. But the good news is that you're still with us, so clearly you're a keen bean. But the next questions that you're probably going to have are, should you build or buy a PC? Is it complicated? And what parts do I actually need? And that's a lot of questions to just randomly throw at a man, but I'll do my best to answer them. When it comes to a gaming PC, the main things really need to focus on are the graphics card and the CPU. Those are the two things that are going to dictate your frame rate in most cases. And then the rest of it, including the case, kind of holds it all together. So what I mean by that is if you're tied to like your graphics card, let's say that's what's holding your frame rate in place. You're getting 100 FPS on this. If you then choose a CPU that can only get you 30 FPS, then your PC is going to run at 30 FPS. But if you were to buy a processor that can theoretically run a game at 250 FPS, but your graphics card is at 100 FPS, then your frame rate is going to be 100 frames a second. So that's why you need to focus on these two so that they balance out. But then everything else around that kind of needs to just hold everything together in place. It'd be a little bit like using a paper bag for like 10 kilos of luggage or something. It's clearly not going to work. You need to think about everything. So in your PC, you've also got your motherboard, you've got your RAM, the case is what holds everything together. You've got an SSD for your storage where you put your games and windows, and you also have a power supply to convert your electricity into, well, gaming juice essentially. But I realize this is very, very brief. But fortunately for you, I've done a full, proper video all about all of the PC parts explained in much greater detail, so I'd highly advise you check that on the top right corner of your screen. Part selection then is properly important, and it really is the secret to getting a great rig that will last. But obviously it's only going to work if your PC actually works. You couldn't possibly build a gaming PC though, could you? It's far too complicated and way too easy to stuff up and break everything. But actually no, I am a self-confessed idiot, and I build them on the channel every week from start to finish, showing you exactly how it's done. And I promise you, it is nowhere near as hard as people think. All you need are 2 screwdrivers, a few hours of time, and genuinely a whole lot of patience. I think the best way of describing it, or at least what people have described it to me that makes sense, is it's kind of like adult Lego. So you don't need to solder anything, you just buy the bits and you put them together. As I say, it's just the screwdrivers. It is stressful. I'm not going to pretend that it's not, unless you've got like millions of quid in the bank and if you break it, it doesn't matter. You are going to be stressed when you pick up your graphics card, you slide it in, you get your CPU, you don't want to damage anything. You are going to have some elevated stress levels, so you could measure that with your heart rate monitor. But especially if you have someone else with you, just take your time, and as I would like to think I prove week in, week out, it is actually really straightforward. Just take your time, and I've said this for my whole career, but I promise you, it's some of the best advice I can give you. If you ever get too stressed, take a time out. Have a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, and just leave it half an hour and come back to it, because you don't ever want to be like cramming things in there, putting too much force on one bit. And quite often just taking a step away and coming back just makes it a lot easier to kind of work out what's going wrong. I did that with my first ever build when I was getting way too stressed, and it helped me out a lot. Of course though, we're all different. It's not for everyone, and in my book, understanding the parts and having a great rig is far more important than who actually put it together. So if you do want to get a system builder to do it for you, then fantastic. I'm going to leave some links down below to some good pre-builds and some good sites to help you along your way. And again, I've actually done a full explainer video on all the pros and cons versus build versus buy, and you can find out my full video explaining this in much greater detail in the top right corner of your screen. But let's say you've spent ages planning everything out, you've methodically put it together, your system works, it looks like this, fantastic. But what's next? How do you know that you're actually getting the most out of your gaming PC and that it is working as efficiently as possible? Here's everything every single PC gamer must do. Well, firstly, don't laugh. It's obvious to some, but certainly not to others. 99% of PCs these days don't have any disk drive, so you're not going to be buying any physical copies and installing them. You're going to use Steam, the Xbox app, Battle.net, Epic Games, etc. to install and manage your game library. Unlike a console, you're also going to need to be proactive about updating your machine, in particular your graphics card drivers, to ensure you're running the latest versions when playing new titles. This ensures any optimizations have been performed, and you should get higher and more stable frame rates and less risk of any artifacting or general weirdness. And unless you explicitly and exclusively play games only with a gamepad, I would also highly recommend that you get yourself a decent gaming mouse. Now, this isn't like a sponsored thing for this particular one. You don't need to spend masses of money, probably around like £25 or dollars or higher gets you something great. But obviously this is the way that you interact with the game. It makes a massive difference. And if you're using like some hand-me-down mouse from, I don't know, your old school computer or something like that, you are going to struggle in games. This is definitely worth the investment. I mean, just get rid of your RGB fans. Like, just save some money here and invest it at least in like a £30 gaming mouse. I promise it's going to make a massive difference. The only other accessory that I would say is just as vital, but admittedly is a fair bit more expensive, and you've already spent a lot, is a good gaming display. So it can be a TV, it can be a monitor, doesn't really matter, but you want something with low input lag and ideally at least 120 Hz. You're on PC, so take full advantage of its capability. Obviously, OLED screens are the best, but any good quality IPS or VA gaming monitor will do, and even at 1440p, you can find them for as low as around about £200 or dollars. And as it is quite literally the thing that you actually look at, it is a great investment. Again, some of our favorites are linked down below. But finally, we've made it to the point where you're actually gaming. Once you get in the game, is there anything you need to do? Well, maybe a couple of things. It's quite simple really. Just open up the game menu when you first load up a new title and then head into the options menu. You usually have two, display and graphics. Display lets you set the resolution or number of pixels that the game runs at. This should usually be the same as your display resolution, so set it to 1920 by 1080 if you're running at Full HD, or 3840 by 2160 if you're running at 4K. Graphics options, meanwhile, are usually more about the way that the characters look in-game with things like textures or anti-aliasing, and there's often like quick and easy presets that you can use, like low, medium, high, and ultra, but a lot of the fun of PC is actually picking these yourself and getting the exact FPS that you want. But I'd say that me personally, the first things that I will do when I open up a PC game is to pick a preset, see exactly what FPS that gives me, and then start to mess around with the DLSS, the XeSS, or the FSR. These are our upscalers that essentially take the game and they render it at a lower resolution and then upscale it to fit the display. And they're getting really good, and it's a great way to give yourself loads more performance. So a lot of the settings in the game, you'll maybe change from like low to medium and your FPS might change by like 4. But DLSS or any of the others is massive. If you change it to performance rather than being off, you could quite literally make your FPS go up by like 3 times. It's very dramatic, but obviously it does have an impact on the visual quality of the game. So this is the first thing I would always change to actually make sure that I'm getting image quality level that I'm happy with, but also it affects the frame rate massively. Once I've messed around with these settings, the next thing I'll look at is ray tracing. And this is that next-gen setting that lets your game look crazy realistic, but does come at the cost of severe performance penalties. By all means turn this on if you have well over 100 FPS, and probably turn it off in all other instances, unless of course you are happy to run below this. It's also worth noting that both AMD and Nvidia actually have optimizers baked right into their driver suites. So once you have opened a game for the first time, you can close it down, open up your driver, and then you find the game, just hit optimize, and then all of this complexity is removed, and your PC will essentially find the right settings for your specific PC. And I know with this very last point, there are going to be people watching this going, surely everyone knows that, but I promise you they don't, because I think I only learnt this when I was about 13, and I'm ashamed to say that, though frankly that was a long time ago now. If you're playing a game and you want to get out of the game without closing it, so let's say you want to go into Google Chrome or you want to go to Discord, then you just press Alt and Tab, and that will cycle through the different applications, and that's the way us PC gamers can essentially have a game open, and do some other stuff and then come back to it without having to close it down every time. If you didn't know that, this is going to be very useful. If you already did, you're probably saying, oh, PC Centric is so boring, it comes out with all this rubbish information. Well, I think with that probably is a great time to actually wrap this up. I really hope you have enjoyed this video and I hope it's been useful. If you have any questions about PC gaming, let us know down in the comment section below and other people will answer it, including myself. Or if you want to join the PC Centric Discord, where you can ask loads of queries, whether it's building a PC, part selection, anything and everything, that link is down in the description below, and I know it's been really useful to a lot of people. And of course, as I say, we have built loads and loads of gaming rigs on this channel, so we're going to leave some of our favorite parts listed down below, along with a load of videos as well that you can check out if you want to see how to actually build a gaming PC. But I really hope this video has been helpful. Smash the like button if it has, get yourself subscribed, and as I say, if you do want to learn more about PC gaming in general, you can find everything listed down below with our affiliate links.
And while you're down there, why not start planning your new build with a Corsair Frame 5000D? This mighty case is all about modularity and ease of building, with Corsair's InfiniRail fan mounting system, Rapid Route 2.0 cable management system, and a pre-installed GPU anti-sag bracket. It comes with 4 140mm fans as standard, supports reverse connect motherboards, and is available in both black or white, RGB or solid. Get yours today with a link down below.
But thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.